All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Nick Klemchek. I'm from the Schenectady County Soil and Water Conservation District. We're here this morning to give you the annual Good Housekeeping training. This is a training we provide every year to all the municipalities in Schenectady County. It's mandatory for the MS4 reporting that all the communities, or some of the communities in Schenectady County, are required to follow. So just a little background of the Schenectady Soil and Water Conservation District. The mission of the Soil and Water Conservation District is to enhance and promote the natural resources of Schenectady County through promotion, education, and implementation of proven conservation practices and sound resource management. So today we're hitting that education portion of our mission to help you guys in your everyday activities to help keep our water clean. So we're going to begin with the working two computers. We're going to begin by talking about the Federal Clean Water Act. So the goal of this act is to so this act aims to reduce and eliminate pollution from the nation's water in order to restore and maintain physical, biological integrity of the nation's water. So what does that mean? Basically, it's to keep the rivers and streams and water bodies of the nation clean, right? We rely on water every day to support our existence. We also enjoy it for recreational activities such as fishing and swimming. So it's really important that we take ownership of that and keep our waters as clean as possible. And this act does that, right? Keeps our water clean by regulating discharges of pollutants from industrial operations and setting water quality standards for surface waters. And that's through urban and agricultural runoff, right? There's when we have storm events, that runoff can pick up contaminants, and then it eventually flows into streams, rivers, and eventually the ocean. So we want to try and keep that storm water as clean as possible. So that's our goal today. Stormwater management is mandated by the United States Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA. It's required by the 1987 amendments to the Clean Water Act. It's implemented locally by the New York State DEC and the regulated municipalities. So everybody that is a regulated municipality is going to be listening to this this training and help get that background on what an MS4 is and how we can keep our water quality or keep our waters clean. So what is an MS4 community? MS4 stands for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System. Basically, it's the conveyance of stormwater through the stormwater system of the municipality. In an MS4, that stormwater is not treated, right? So any rainwater that comes through a ditch eventually makes it through to the Mohawk River in our case. So it's really important that we keep our streets clean, keep contaminants out of our out of those water conveyances. And as I said, it's not a combined sewer. So MS4 communities that are not MS4, the stormwater and sanitary sewer they all go to the treatment, the water treatment facility, right? And it's all treated. There's some problems with that, right? During heavy storm events, those wastewater treatment plants often overflow and sends contamination, sewage contaminated runoff into our rivers and streams. So an MS4 is better for water quality, and that's why they put that regulation into effect. So here's a good, picture. So you picture a house, the sanitary sewer comes, any of the sewage coming out of the house, wastewater goes into the sanitary sewer and goes to a treatment plant. It is treated at that facility in an MS4 community. And then any stormwater runoff that runs down the side of the road into a catch basin, through a ditch, makes its way right directly into a waterway, and eventually the river and oceans. So we're going to talk about stormwater a lot today. Why is stormwater a concern? Untreated stormwater can contaminate our drinking water supplies, severely impact aquatic habitat for insects and amphibians, and it can seriously degrade our wetlands. So it's really, again, important that we keep our waters clean. And streams that eventually receive pollutants and the water quality degrades to a certain point, they become impaired, right? And New York State DEC classifies those streams as impaired. And at that point, that stream or water body no longer can support its use, right? So they might use it for drinking water or swimming or fishing. And DEC will classify those waters as impaired. So our goal is to keep those waters out of that status and keep them clean. Where does it come from? We've talked about this a little bit. So anytime we have a rain event, right, the water falls everywhere, right? It falls on impervious surfaces. It falls on lawns, on vegetative surfaces. The rainwater can soak into the ground and be treated, right? It's not picking up contaminations. But when it falls on impervious surfaces, bare soil, it can pick up any contaminants on those surfaces and carry them downstream. So streets are a big one with oils and particulates. There's a good photo up here of bare soil and the effectiveness of mulch on that soil when we have rain events. You can see the bare soil on the left, really sediment-filled runoff, and on the far right, mulch surface, very little sediment in that material. So it's really important to those best management practices. We're going to be using that term a lot today. And, when we're on construction sites, when you're working day to day, there's best management practices that we can implement to help keep our water clean. So, as I said, it can contain many different things if there's pollutants out there for the stormwater to pick up, like trash, pet waste, sediment, fertilizers and pesticides on lawns. And here's the big six of the stormwater pollutants. And our goal is to try and keep those out of our stormwater. Here's some other examples. Uncovered salt storage. It's really important to keep those undercover, keep them neat. Sediment on a roadway when we have those rain events, can carry that downstream, and with it carries nutrients, which can affect our waterways. So where does it go? As we said, stormwater from the roadway goes into a ditch or a catch basin on curbed roads. It then finds its way into a smaller stream or directly into a larger water body or river. In our case, the water from Niskayuna and the municipalities around here finds its way into the Mohawk River. For the majority of the county, there's a small section in Rotterdam and Dwaynesburg that finds its way directly into the Mohawk. through the Hudson River through that watershed. But either way, it all makes its way down to the Hudson and eventually down to the North Atlantic Ocean. But before it gets there, right, if there's contaminants and nutrients in those waters, it can have severe impacts to the water quality in the Mohawk River, leading to drinking water problems and aquatic life issues. So some stormwater impacts from erosion and sedimentation. Here's on the left-hand side is a photo of Cayuga Lake and the sedimentation that's transported through that stream there out into the lake. So that's why it's really important to keep our work sites properly mulched. Apply those best management practices to reduce that sediment load that is then carried downstream, and then also erosion of stream banks, which can cause property damage, significant cost to the municipalities, which ultimately falls on taxpayers, right? And so we want to try and minimize that. Here's some other examples, and all of this can be mitigated, right, by best management practices that we're going to learn about later on, and it's it's part of our job to ensure that those are implemented and properly maintained. So we're going to recap. So we know what an MS4 is, right? A municipal separate storm sewer system. The water from Schenectady County, the stormwater from Schenectady County goes directly into our nation's waterways, right? It is not treated. We know what stormwater is, right? It's the precipitation that falls out of the sky and then ends up on our impervious surfaces and eventually makes its way into water conveyances, picking up pollutants and contaminants. And we know why it's important to keep stormwater clean, right? We want to protect our water quality. The communities with MS4s, here's all of them in Schenectady County. We're missing Princetown in here. They are not an MS4 community, but all the others are. So, this all pertains to you. We're going to talk about next the MS4 Stormwater Management Program, learn about the minimum control measures, and then get into those best management practices that can help keep our water clean. So the regulated MS4 Stormwater Management Program, there are 6 minimum control measures that are listed up here, and they make up the Stormwater Management Program. We're going to be talking about number 3, illicit discharge detection and elimination, and 6, pollution prevention and good housekeeping of municipal operations. They all have a role in keeping our water clean. And various groups focus on the others. And some groups, such as construction companies, are responsible for implementing BMPs and having a stormwater pollution prevention plan that is regulated by New York State DEC. But as far as your day-to-day operations, you can be looking out for illicit discharge. You can keep an eye out for it. And then the pollution prevention and good housekeeping of municipal operations, there are best management practices and things you can do in your day-to-day operations to help keep our water clean. So illicit discharge detection and elimination. An illicit discharge is an illegal discharge, right? It's not allowed by the Clean Water Act and the state law. And that goes directly into a municipal storm sewer system through storm drains, pipes, ditches, and it's not composed entirely of stormwater. What's most notable about illicit discharges, they can be seen, witnessed during dry periods of weather, right? It's hard to detect them when we have a storm event, because it's getting all combined with all the stormwater, right? But during dry weather, we can witness these events. There's some sources here: failing septic systems, overflowing septic systems, laundry wastewaters, people pumping out their swimming pools into the catch basin, illegal dumping in ditches, car washing is one with all the soaps, and then the oils that come off of the car, right? If that's going directly into a catch basin, that is an illicit discharge. And we want to be watching out for that, right? We want to be paying attention to that. And we'll get into how we can report that a little later. So there are 3 discharge frequencies with illicit discharge: continuous, intermittent, and transitory. Continuous occur almost all the time, right? During any dry period, you can witness these illicit discharge events. One example of this is a sewage cross connection, where a sewage line may be cracked or damaged and may be getting into or combined into the storm system. Old infrastructure, previously, everything was combined, right? So maybe one connection wasn't properly disconnected, right? And it's occurred for years, right? This illicit discharge. It's up to somebody to test the water to see, if that discharge out of that outfall into the river or whatever has contaminants, and then that needs to be traced, up that system to see where it's coming from, and that can be tricky underground, right? But some of these other ones we can kind of see in our day-to-day operations. And intermittent discharge has a shorter period, so it could be somebody washing a car, or illegal dumping into a ditch or a catch basin, right? That's going to just happen for that short period of time, and then it's going to stop. And transitory, a good example of this is like a spill, right? A fuel truck tips over, right? And that fuel spills into the ditch. That's a transitory discharge. So there's the different flow types, right? Sewage and septage, we got into that, where a sewage might be getting into that stormwater conveyance, and that's going to be a continuous discharge, right? Wash water, more intermittent. Gray water, fleet washing, right? You guys are washing your trucks. It's going down the catch basin, or hopefully into an oil water separator, right? It's collected and treated before it's discharged into our waters. Floor washing and shop drains, pressure washing a driveway, that sort of thing. And then liquid waste, oil, paint. So that's somebody dumping that down the drain, or it's leaking into a catch basin or something. Other types of dry weather flows can be seen, and they may not be illicit, right? They may not be illegal. And some of these include tap water, landscape irrigation, and groundwater, and spring, right? We're entering spring flows. When that groundwater is high, you might see, water coming through a ditch just because the groundwater is high. It becomes illicit once it picks up contaminants, right? Or contaminants are added to it. So picking up trash and oils. And in the example of landscape irrigation, if there are pesticides and herbicides on the lawn, and it picks those up and carries them into the catch basin, it becomes illicit, right? And that is only really found by testing. So it's really important that, municipalities are doing their outfall inspections and maybe have a testing schedule to test those outfalls. Another example is contaminated groundwater from improper salt storage, right? So groundwater can be illicit only if there's a contaminant in it. And if there's a salt storage or salt stockpile that is leaching into the groundwater, it becomes an illicit discharge. So, and we touched on this already. There's two different modes of entry, right? Direct, which is through a drain pipe, sewage pipe, shop drain, or any kind of pipe, usually continuous and intermittent. And oftentimes it's an improper connection to a storm drain system. And then indirect entry, flows generated outside the storm drain system enter through the storm drain inlets or by infiltrating through the joints of the pipe, usually intermittent or transitory. So this can be somebody illegally dumping down the catch basin or into our waterways, non-target irrigation, spills, and groundwater seepage. So how do we find these illicit discharges? How do we detect them? These discharges can be witnessed during outfall inspections and maintenance to the stormwater or sanitary sewer systems, right, in your municipality. Inadvertently, they can be witnessed, right, and that could be by you guys, right, having an eye out every day during your day-to-day operations, in the ditch to see if maybe you see a milky substance flowing down the ditch. If you see something that might look a little strange or smell strange or even smell good, right? Laundry wastewater probably smells pretty good. That is an illicit discharge and should be reported, right? So talk to your supervisor, talk to the MS4 coordinator in your municipality and let them know that you've witnessed an illicit discharge, and they can take the further steps to, correct that. And once they're notified, it's all about finding where that's coming from. And it might be, tracking it back to its source. And that can take some time and can be tough with underground conveyances, right? But it's important we get it fixed and get it taken care of. The last is citizen reporting. People, are curious and may have a call into the municipality and say, hey, there's something flowing down my ditch, or my neighbor's, emptying his oil into the ditch or catch basin. And that's really good. And that's where the public education portion of the stormwater management program comes into play, right? We want to help educate, everybody, and you guys can be part of that. You guys can, if you're interacting with community members, let them know if they're seeing something, out of the ordinary, something they think isn't great for our water quality. Let them know to call and report that. So we're going to get into pollution prevention and good housekeeping for municipal operations. The goal here is to develop a program to reduce and prevent pollutants from our operations, right? Mowing the parks, fixing the roads, cleaning the ditches. So we can implement BMPs every day to help promote water quality. We're going to touch on all these today, and we'll get into it. So vehicle and equipment maintenance and fueling. It's, these are ideal photos here. Nice clean shop, organized, a fueling station on a concrete pad. It looks like it's covered too, right? So these are some of the things we're going to be talking about. So some BMPs, right? Best management practices in our day-to-day operations. Keep an eye on your vehicles, right? Report any damages or leaks that you're seeing, out of the truck. Oil sheens are when it's wet. Hopefully it doesn't get to that point. Hopefully you catch it before we have a rain event. But when we do have rain events, keep an eye out. If you're seeing oil sheens, there's probably something going on with one of the vehicles. And I actually witnessed this winter, on a road. Plow truck must have been spraying hydraulic fluid. The whole road was rainbow colors. That's one of those. Keep an eye out for that, and report it. Figure out what truck it is. Conduct maintenance work indoors, right? If we can, it's ideal to do it indoors. You don't want a surprise storm coming in while you're changing the oil, or if outside maintenance is necessary, work under cover if you can. Tarps are good. Seal floor drains in the indoor garages, right? We want to make sure there's no sealed floor drains that are running out into the stormwater conveyance, right? We don't know exactly where those are going unless they are going to an oil water separator, and is going to a device that is going to filter or treat that water before it's put out into the water conveyance. Single-use purpose vehicle bays. This just helps keep everything organized. We'll get into spill response later. If we have a single-use bay, we can have those spill response materials ready and available, at our disposal. And we know where they are, right? If it's organized and everything. So it's important to, if something is spilled, clean it up immediately, have those materials available, and then identify appropriate recycling disposal options after the fact. So again, install pre-treatment systems. That's going to help, if you're washing a vehicle, right, all those oils coming off of the vehicle will go into this oil water separator. The oil can then be pumped off the top, and the water can be discharged, and treated afterwards. Never leave vehicles unattended while refueling. You never know what can happen. And hopefully this is taking place on a concrete pad, with some containment, and your spill response materials are right there, right? If there is a spill, you can clean it up. We don't want to see a fuel tank in a mud pit like the photo here. That's not ideal, and can severely impact our water quality. So there are some maintenance procedures, right, that go into all this. And maintaining a clean work area, again, is going to help us keep our water clean, and help us be organized and respond to spills should they happen. Use non-hazardous cleaners, to clean up those areas. Repair and replace leaking containers. Always be keeping an eye out for that. Use steam cleaning and pressure washing instead of solvents. Those solvents have a lot of chemicals in them that can severely impact our water quality. And use designated wash stations that would eventually go into an oil water separator, or somehow treat that wash water afterwards. So hazardous waste and materials management. We do have hazardous waste in our job, right? And we do use them, oils, fuels. But how can we manage them and hold on to them in a safe and responsible manner? So some BMPs. Store the hazardous materials in closed, labeled containers and on pallets. There are pallets that can act as secondary containment systems, right? If there was a leak, they will collect that fluid or that hazardous material so that it's not spilled all over the place, right? And then it can be managed in place. It's really important to keep containers labeled, right? If you find an empty container on the shelf a full container on the shelf that's not labeled, somebody may be tempted just to dump it down the drain, right? And that's going to impact our drinking water eventually. So It's really important that we label the containers, keep our safety data sheets up to date, and that's going to help protect you and the water quality, right? Eliminate floor drain systems. We don't want stuff going down the drain. We want to clean that spill up and dispose of it in the proper way, right? Use the first in, first out system, right? We don't want stuff accumulating. Empty bottle, 3 half full bottles of something is always just unorganized, and we want to try and use the first in, first out system. Again, repair, keep an eye out for any leaking or defective containers, maintain the caps, put stuff back on the shelf where you found it. That helps with organization, and maintain plenty of space in your storage areas so that you can get around them and really check and see if there are any issues. So we have these hazardous waste. We have fueling of vehicles. We're going to talk about spill response and cleanup, right? Spills will happen. It's inevitable, right? We've all seen it. It's important to be prepared, know your site, contain the spill, and then contact necessary personnel if it's a spill that you can't handle, can't get cleaned up in the appropriate amount of time. Or if it's outside, right, on the roadside. So just be prepared, know what your options are, and we're going to get into some of those. So having a spill response kit is necessary on the vehicles and in your shops. Properly store the materials, and before the spill happens, right, use secondary containment systems, right? That's going to help contain that spill so that you're not seeing it go down the road or seeing it go down the floor drain, right? Obtain those spill recovery materials as quick as possible. There's plenty of them out there. I know we use Speedy Dry at our facility, at the composting facility in our shop, and absorbent pads. So just have that material, know where it is, know how to use it, right tool, right application too. So make sure you have the right stuff for each material, hazardous waste that you're working with, or liquid that you're working with. And then, once it's used, make sure it doesn't, make sure it has the proper disposal. Maintain your secondary containment systems, check your containers for leaks. If there is outdoor storage, make sure it's not near a storm receiver or an outlet, because if there is a leak, that's where it's going to go. Placement is key. Inside storage, again, we want to eliminate floor drains if we can, unless we know where they're going and we know that the it's not making its way out into our stream. Protect the drains if there are drains. Protect them with drain covers or curbing. That can help clean out the receivers, keep up on spills, or clean up the spills immediately again. Have them spill materials available. And I know this is repetitive, right? But it's really important to have the spill materials or the spill kit available, right? And know how to use it so that if there is a spill, we can clean it up and that. So roadway and bridge maintenance, this can be cleaning ditches, paving, culvert replacements, stockpiled material, and just a lot of our day-to-day operations in the construction season, right, in the busy season that we're getting into right now. And there's a lot of impacts to stormwater and receiving waters from our operations, right? Sediment is a big one. So any construction site that has exposed soil and we have rain event, it's going to pick up that sediment. It's going to carry it downstream. We want to try and avoid that. Road salt is a big one. It's inevitable, right? We need to keep our roadways safe in the wintertime, but road salt is has a severe impact on our water quality. So that's a big one. Particulates, dry paint, abrasive compounds, sand, and that, and then just debris, trash that gets thrown out the window and stuff, can all have impacts to our water. So some BMPs that we can incorporate when we're working out on these construction sites, or culvert replacements and stuff. Make sure we have a plan, right? Develop if it's a project that's disturbing in a certain amount of land, stormwater pollution prevention plan is required, and make sure that is checks all the boxes for DEC, and make sure that they're maintained, right, and followed. It's really important to implement the BMPs that are laid out in that plan, and maintain them, right? Keep them functioning. Pave in dry weather only. This is something that is a best management practice. Not always ideal. We have tons of summer thunderstorms that kind of hit at the worst times, right? Stage road operations, right? Have a staging area, install silt fence, install filter sock, which I'll take the time right now and let everybody know that the Soil and Water Conservation District does have silt socks that are going to be filled with wood mulch this year, available to all the municipalities. So if you're got a construction site and you need filter sock, let us know and we can get you. We have 12-inch and we have 8-inch and 12-inch filter sock. So let us know if you've got a project and you need some erosion sediment control practices. We can provide those. Cover stockpile materials, right? Not always possible, but if you're near a catch basin or a ditch or a stream, and you have a stockpile of sand or dirt, it's good to have that covered. At the very least, install those erosion and sediment control practices like filter socks and around that pile, so that we can keep that sedimentation from entering our waterways. Clean up fluid leaks and spills immediately. Again, it's going to happen. Probably you're going to have a breakdown on a truck, and it's important you don't just leave that hydraulic fluid on the roadway. Clean it up and then dispose of the cleanup materials. Reduce the use of herbicides. I know a lot of municipalities in the county do mow their road ditches instead of spray, which is good. And that's going to help promote water quality. And it's going to help maintain roadside vegetation, right? In the photo we had before, where the exposed soil had a lot of sediment coming off of that bare soil, the mulched surface was very clean water coming off of that. That roadside vegetation acts in the same way. It helps slow down that water, helps it infiltrate into the ground rather than picking up all the soil that is underneath it. Clean out catch basins regularly. We're going to get into that a little bit more. Again, proper erosion and sediment control practices, filter sock, silt fence, covers on stockpiles. That's going to help reduce the sediment and keep it out of our ditches and waterways. Direct runoff from bridges and other areas, if we can, parking lots, to vegetative areas that are going to help that water soak into the ground rather than running off downstream. right? That's always better, and that can help reduce erosion further downstream, right? The more water that gets picked up along the way, the more water that's going to be put into the stream and eventually the river, which could cause flooding and erosion, right? So if we can keep the water on the landscape and have that infiltrate into the groundwater, right? It's the ground is a great filter, one, and it's going to help recharge the groundwater, right? We all like green lawns and we like our gardens and trees. That's going to help those, right? We've had some really dry, we saw it this fall, how dry it was, right? If we could have kept all the water on the landscape, you know, when we do have those rain events, it's going to help during those periods of drought. Stabilize and control disturbed areas. Again, you know, proper erosion sediment control practices, maintain the proper slope, mulch exposed soil or hydroseed. You know, get that seeded, get vegetation on that soil as soon as possible after you're done with your work. Catch basin cleaning. You know, this is an ongoing battle, right? There's always something to be done. But it's important to repair broken catch basins. It's going to allow larger materials down the storm drain, like, you know, litter, garbage, and it is eventually going to make its way, right? Because all of these catch basins in our MS4 communities are making their way into a waterway, right? And eventually out into the Mohawk River. So we want to keep stuff on the landscapes or on the roads so that we can pick it up before it gets into the Mohawk, right? Leaves are full of nutrients, right? Ideally, we get those picked up so that they're not running into the waterways, right? And that's where you know, nitrogen and phosphorus can cause algal blooms in our waterways, and grass clippings, leaves, any vegetation that it makes its way down those catch basins can contribute to those algal blooms, which can affect, you know, the swimmability of our waters and can cause fish kills, right? And we like fishing, so we want to try and minimize that. So maintenance, again, just a regular cleaning of the catch basins, storm pipe cleaning in the spring, dirt and grit from the winter, all the particulates that are left on the roads. In the fall, it's leaves. Seal floor drains when necessary. Establish ditches, right? Ditches are always better than a curbed road. A curbed road is going to funnel that storm water down the road into the catch basin, where a ditched road where that water is able to run off the side of the road into the ditch. It gives that water a chance to filter into the ground rather than running down an impervious surface such as a roadway. And certainly if there's no roadside vegetation, right, the water that comes off the road is going to cause erosion and then ultimately sedimentation into the road, into the ditch. And then that sediment is going to head downstream into our waterways. Remove obstacles and debris. And time, and if you can, time your ditch cleaning, right, so that you know, you're not doing it maybe during you know, high flow or the high chance of a rainfall event, and and then seed those areas as soon as possible to get that vegetation growing in those areas again. Street cleaning and maintenance. This is going on. I just passed a street cleaner yesterday on Route 50. Now is the time, right, before we start getting our spring rains, picking up all of those particulates from the winter, the road paint, the you know, plastic pieces from vehicles, and all the salt and sand that's left on the road. Now is a good time to be doing that. Again, considered shoulder roads if possible, and maintain that salt-resistant roadside vegetation so that it's able to filter that runoff before it goes downstream. A lot of the same stuff, spring sweeping and vacuuming, fall sweeping, a leaf collection, dry sweep if possible, during dry weather, temporary parking bans so that we can perform the maintenance activities in a timely manner, right? And when we need to. And again, maintain equipment, check for leaks always, and repair them immediately. And stage your road operations if possible, and keep those sites organized and have the proper erosion sediment control practices. We touched on this road salt storage and application. Again, road salt, there's more studies coming out on its effects to our water quality. And I know it's necessary, but there are best management practices that we can implement to reduce that effect, right? So the first is storage, right? We want to make sure that storage is undercover. There are grants out there through DEC to build facilities for salt cover or salt storage. Store it on high ground, right? Not near a wetland, not near a receiving water, right? We want to keep that up high. Unload. So when you get a salt delivery, make sure it's unloaded and put into that salt storage immediately. Keep a clean area. We don't want piles of salt laying around. When it does rain, it's going to pick up that salt and carry it downstream. Hopefully there's collection areas around that facility so that it's not making its way down the catch basin and into our waterways. But just keep on top of that, maintain a clean working area. Calibrate spreaders and reduce salt applications when possible. A big one, I'm not totally sure how the salters work, but when you're at a stop sign, you see a big pile of salt laying right there. I don't know if that's. Can somebody tell me? Do you click on the belt that discharges the salt? Yeah, so make sure you hit that off right at a stop sign instead of leaving that big pile of salt. That is going to make its way into our waterways. So. And not to mention salt's expensive, right? So that's a cost to the taxpayer. So maintenance procedures, calibrate your spreaders. Hopefully this is done annually and throughout the year to make sure that, you're not applying too much. Again, it's can have severe impacts to our water quality, and it can cost a lot of money, right? Educate, which is what we're doing right now. You can see this photo here of looks like balsam fir trees that are severely impacted by road salt application, right? And the spray from the winter. So it's not good for our vegetation. It's not good for our water quality. So we want to reduce it when we can. And again, keeping that covered is good. So that's what I got. Does anybody have any questions, thoughts? All right, hearing none. Thank you for listening. I just hope that you guys can take from this that, water quality is important. We need water to survive, right? We want water to enjoy our recreational activities. Let's keep it as clean as possible. We can do certain things in our day-to-day job. It's not a big lift, but just keep an eye out. And we want this, this is for our kids. This is for our kids' kids. So let's do our part, and thank you.